Hello, my name is Katie, and I'm here today to do a bit of a mid-year goals check-in slash stats kind of a video. So I'm not totally certain what all I was intending to do here. I have some basic things put together that I just wanted to talk about because I like numbers and I like graphs, and yeah, so I thought we would just do that. First things first, maybe we could go over some of the reading goals that I had for 2021 and just see where I'm at. One of my first goals was to read more translated fiction. I think in general I just had like 6 for each of these goals just to feel it out and see how that would go, because I didn't want to pressure myself too much, but I did want it to be something I was like conscious of when choosing books to read. So I have 4 that I've attempted, but only 2 that I've successfully finished. So Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Tashikazu Kawaguchi, I didn't finish. And then The Count of Monte Cristo, I also did not finish. I will be trying The Count of Monte Cristo again. I think it was partly just timing, partly the way in which I chose to consume it. It was a mixture of things. The 2 that I did finish was A Long Petal of the Sea by Isabel Allende. I really liked that book and definitely recommend it. And The Widow Queen by Elzbieta. Oh geez. Look, the Polish author. I don't speak Polish despite being of Polish descent. So I assume I put a photo up and you can see the author's name. If not, hopefully I've left it down in the description box. Another thing I wanted to do was rereads, and so far I've read 3 books that are rereads. Through the Door by Jodi McIsaac. I believe that's like a self-published novel. It's a lot of fun but not terribly well written. And then I reread The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, definitely becoming one of my favorite series of all times. Classics. I always try to read more classics, and I just don't get on with classics that well. Like, I think that's my one area where I just don't really care for them. So there may be room for argument on the things that I am counting as classics here, but I'm doing my best, okay? Persuasion by Jane Austen. I put The Count of Monte Cristo on here as well because it is a classic and I did attempt it. And that's my thing. I just want to at least be like trying to be more conscious of the things I'm consuming. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I mean, arguable whether that should be considered a classic or not, but I'm counting it. And then A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. Again, that one could probably be argued as to whether or not it's a classic. I also wanted to do more like book to movie adaptation type things, like read the book, watch the movie, and I haven't done any of those, so yikes. And then the last goal I had, and the one I've been most successful at, is Indigenous authors. I have read, let's see, Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq, The Removed by Brandon Hobson, and Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar-Ortiz. I tried to read Elatsoe by Darcie Little Badger. I read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, and Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. So, not too bad. I think that's the one I've done the best with thus far. Okay, hopping into other goal things. Every year on Goodreads I just set it to 52 books. I figure 1 book a week isn't too much to ask, and then if life gets busy, I don't have to stress about things. However, on the story graph, I went ahead and set my goal to 150 books and 50,000 pages. So far, I am at 119 books and 41,292 pages. So it looks like I'm gonna make it. The top 3 moods I've been reading so far this year are emotional, dark, and reflective. And anybody who knows me is not surprised by that. As far as page numbers, books that are under 300 pages, I've read 38. 300 to 499, I've read 65. And then 500 plus, I've read 16. So I'm kind of like right in the middle there. I have read let's see, 96 fiction books and 23 nonfiction books, which puts me at 19.3% for nonfiction consumption. My goal is usually about 20% nonfiction, so I'm not mad at that, especially because when I look at the genre breakdown later on, that's actually my second highest, I believe. Yeah, it's my second highest genre, so that's cool. Okay, here's a fun graph. It shows number of books versus pages that I read every month. I don't know if this is actually telling you anything you care about. I just thought it was a nice looking graph, so I threw it in here. Average pages per book. This has seen some decent range here. In January it was 370. February was 269. I read a lot of novellas in February. March was 386. April was 415. May was 362, and then June was 329. All in all, not bad. Like, I don't really care, typically. As long as I'm enjoying what I'm reading, these numbers, like, aren't really there to stress me out. I just think it's fun to look at. Of the 113 books that I've actually reviewed, my average rating was 3.71. You can see here the breakdown. I've had a lot of 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars. It's not bad. It looks like my 4 and 5 stars are pretty even, so I'm not mad about that at all. Genre breakdowns. I've read 13 fantasy books, which is 10.9% of my reading. 17 science fiction, which is 14.3% of my reading. Thrillers, I've read 24, which is 20.2% of my reading, and the highest percentage-wise. I've read 20 that fall under like historical fiction for 16.8%. Fiction, just like more like contemporary type fiction. 15 for 12.6%. Nonfiction, I've read 22 for 19.3%. As discussed before, that is my second highest, so I'm really not mad about that. And then I've read only at like 1.7% that I would consider classics. So that's fun. Anyway, these are books that I've actually finished. So since I've only actually finished like 2 classics this year, or was it 3? It doesn't matter. I think the Diary of Anne Frank went under nonfiction instead of classics, so that's why I ended up with 2. Either way, not so great, but I don't really care, I don't think. I don't know, maybe next year I'll feel differently. Age group breakdown, I've read 5 middle grade, 5 YA, and 109 adult, so I think we can see what my focus has been this year. If we're looking at audio versus ebook versus physical, I've read 14 on audiobook for 11.8% of my reading, 28 ebooks for 23.5% of my reading, which is funny because I think last year I'd read 1 book on ebook for the entire year. But I got a library card this year, so anyway. And then I've read 77 physical books for 64.7%. So those are the numbers that I have. I was curious, what other stats would you guys like to see? Because I wanted to add something about like author diversity in there, but I wasn't sure how to format it. Because I don't really want to look at like male or female authors, because that gets messy. 1, not everybody identifies that way, and 2, not everybody discloses in like their author bio how they identify, and I don't know how much work I want to go into tracking these things down. So then I thought maybe I would just see if I could find like LGBT authors or a breakdown by race or something. Like, I don't know. I didn't know how to do it. I had like a rough estimate where I was going to see what percentage of my reading were LGBTQIA+ authors, Asian, Black, Hispanic, etc. But that seemed, I don't know. If that's something you guys want to see, I will go ahead and try and make that happen. I just don't always know, and I just don't always know if I should necessarily judge by that. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, and I don't know where I'm going with them. So I thought I would get some input from you, my wonderful viewers, my good friends. Anyway, that's all I have for this video, so please leave feedback, comments, questions, concerns, all that in the comment section, and I will check back with you guys soon. Bye.